Hello, everyone. How are you? This is Namir Khan with you, Chairman MENA FinTech Association. I would like to welcome you all to this amazing and a brilliant session that we'll be having today with one of the best people that you could actually bring together. And what I basically call the heart of FinTech is payments, right? So we'll be talking about how we will be innovating payments for billions of users, because we also do understand that the world has changed. Technology has accelerated, not just the way we have been living our lives, but also our businesses. And moreover, collectively, I would say the way the world has been operating. We've been talking about the new normal, we have been talking about the unprecedented times, and a lot more. But most importantly, is how we are going to be enabling that change. And that change comes in with the as basic thing, the basic touch point, which is payments, which enables not just enabling payments, but also multiple things, financial inclusion, cross-border payments, so much more. And for this, we have a brilliant, set of panelists with us over here today, with whom we'll be discussing the criticalities of this and how we'll be shaping this up. But most importantly, since we've been working on the MENA FinTech Association as well on multiple fronts, I also would like to announce that we will be, circulating the MENA Open Banking Vision Report that has been done in close collaboration with multiple regulators and at the same time with key fintechs. Now, so, Mr. Hafid, my first question is to you when it comes to the Central Bank of UAE. Very exciting news, I must say. And as the Central Bank of UAE, which is co-hosting FinTech Abu Dhabi as well, brilliant initiative, I must say. Hats off to you all for arranging a brilliant platform. What I would like to ask you is that Central Bank of UAE is launching a 24/7 national payment strategy. Can you please tell the audience a little more about this strategy and how this will impact overall, and I mean, what do you hope to achieve from this?
Thank you, Namir. Thanks for the organizer for the invitation. Indeed, Namir, as you rightly said, we're in an evolving world, and in view of this global trend, the Central Bank of the UAE has launched the implementation of the National Payment System Strategy, what we saw the so-called NPSS. The objective is to help achieve, let's say, number one is building capabilities to address rapidly changing market, supporting the financial market participant. Number two is to design a world-class financial market infrastructure that provides innovative payment solution and enhances customer experience. Number three is to help achieve financial inclusion and development of a cashless society in the UAE. Number four is to help ensure financial stability through the implementation of a top-notch, robust, resilient, efficient, and effective financial market infrastructure. Number five, very important as well, is to ensure the compliance with the international standards and best practices. So one of the key components of this strategy is to implement what we call the IPP, the Instant Payment Platform, with the aim to provide a cost-effective, safe, efficient, and widely accessible channel for individual and business customers, as well as financial institutions, to send and receive payment on a real-time basis. So the aim is to have a 24/7 running, let's say, system infrastructure. This IPP comprises a number of payment-related services, including the core services, which can handle both credit transfer and direct debit, as well as interbank settlement fund. Number two is some overlay services, which include the addressing service and electronic direct debit authorization service, in addition to electronic check services. So the IPP is designed to serve different type of fund transfers from a payer to a payee. One of the major functions is to facilitate P2P, P2B, B2B credit transfer payment. So it's also facilitate direct debit payment and top up of stored value facility and bill payment using QR code. So we believe that, let's say, this system or this IPP will definitely revamp completely the payment ecosystem in the UAE, and will provide and make sure that the payment services are available 24/7 for all the segment of the economy. Thank you.
Brilliant. I think this is music to the ears to anyone who's basically related to payments. This is great news, and this is really promising news for the overall ecosystem. Thank you, Mr. Hafid, for all the effort for this. And I would like to ask you this question. Mastercard is a global organization, catering billions and billions of users. Now, how does Mastercard intend to serve the 1.8 billion of the population? How do you intend to? what's your strategy to serve this?
Well, thanks very much. First of all, I'd just like to say that I think this U.A.E project we've just heard about is fantastic. I love the fact that the central bank are leading this and putting together a real-time payment system for the whole of the U.A.E. And of course, Mastercard is working on part of that, which is a big digital wallet across the whole of the U.A.E, which is a little bit of a response to your question. But going to the global side of things, we serve probably over about 2 billion customers today across 200 countries. And in 2015, we said, let's bring 500 million unbanked into the financial system. And since then, we've done that through many projects in many countries, whether it's shopkeepers in Africa, women receiving alimony in Egypt, working across the whole of Southeast Asia. And when we had done that 500 million, we said, let's bring the next 500 million in. So now we're shooting for that billion number. And of course, it starts with things like connecting them up to the internet, giving them, in some cases, an ID, which is biometric, and we'll be moving to digital identity in the future. And really allowing them to do business. One of our biggest initiatives is actually working with SMEs around the world. And we said we want to reach the next 50 million SMEs on the planet, but we don't want to just reach the natural third of those that would be run and managed by women. We'd like to level the playing field and go after 50% women. So we've actually got projects running that are connecting up the next 25 million women-led companies. And remember, around the world, women-led companies make up 111 million companies in the world. So we're kind of going after just less than a quarter of those to get them up and running. And really during COVID, this is so important because right now, everybody's doing e-commerce, everybody's buying things online. We saw a spike in the first 10 weeks of this year that actually was more than we'd seen in the last 5 years. So it's accelerated tremendously. And when people are going into shops, they're tapping their card or they're tapping their telephone, and there's been a massive move away from cash around the world, and it's pervasive. We've done studies in so many countries where we've said to people, will you continue doing this, you know, when we come out of the pandemic? And it's a resounding yes on a global basis.
It's brilliant to hear these insights, because I always like the ethical consumption and the conscious consumption of the user, along with the technical the technological push that we've been having as well. Now, I would also like to now bring to this point, as we mentioned, and critical points over here. So now, Marcus, I would like to come to you, because I mean, we're talking about Ripple. So I mean, we're looking into foundational technology, connectivity in today's world, and how important it is. Now, Ripple seeks to basically unlock the power of blockchain and digital asset technology too. Now, how would this help financial institutions when it comes to enabling speed, cost, reliability, efficiency, transparency into the overall system?
Yeah. At Ripple, we are creating what we call the Internet of Value. So the way we look at the world is that the digital revolution has fundamentally changed how people need to and want to pay each other, be paid both domestically and importantly between countries. And our view is to support that payment flow, you've got to kind of create an internet, but for money, the Internet of Value. So Ripple is focused on interconnecting, whether interconnecting payment schemes or local clearing or wallet technology, telecoms technology, connecting together so that you create, using blockchain technology, the ability to make payments even with tiny amounts of money between people, let's say Chile, New Guinea, France, U.A.E, anywhere in the world, in the moment, atomically. We use the word atomic, which means that when a payment happens, it's never kind of half delivered. You never have this phone call, where's my money, did I receive something? The payment is cryptographically confirmed in a moment in time. And the reason that's so important is that it's not only the 7 billion people in the world today who are moving into a more digital world. As Anne said, not only many, many thousands of companies moving to a purely digital way of doing business, You also have machines coming online. There are 50 billion devices today plugged into the internet that are unattended. They could be meters, they could be, say, port equipment and machinery. They're starting to trade. They're starting to transact with each other. We talk in the banking world about KYC, know your customer. In the future, there'll be a KYT, know your thing. So the internet itself is moving to a kind of a space where it's not an option. You've got to have absolutely in the moment, totally reliable, global reach, both for people that are banked and unbanked, and that's what we're doing. So it's a very exciting time. We work with customers in the U.A.E, in the Middle East. We are doing a lot of work across Africa, linking into these new networks as they're coming online. And we also find that, as Anne said, during COVID, there's been a huge acceleration in the shift from cash to digital. So the global economy is moving to a digital platform, really, as was predicted 15, 20 years ago, but it's happening now much more quickly than we expected.
Very interesting point that you just highlighted over here, right? So, I mean, we would say that COVID-19 has certainly digitized economies forward, right? As Anne also mentioned, and you also mentioned it, 5 years, and you know what we expected to achieve in 5 years in just 8 weeks. Now, when it comes to specific to payments, how have your organizations responded to it, and what opportunities do you see? And Mr. Hafid, I would like to ask you, I mean, kicking off from you, what opportunities do you see, considering the fact that how things have accelerated in such a short amount of time? And do you see any risk as well, apart from the opportunities?
Sure, I'm happy to start off. So I think what's happening is many of the work styles which were kind of played with before, kind of work from home, kind of by remotely, are coming mainstream. I think as pointed out earlier, these shifts in behavior are not going to go away. So in many ways, we've moved into a much more interactive world. That, I think, brings challenges in terms of human interaction. We were chatting earlier before the call about the need to meet people and to be with people rather than just be remote. So I think the digital shift is creating an accelerated change, both good and bad. And the trick will be to manage that well. So we create a world where it's fairer, it's more interactive, it's more connected, but we don't lose the human touch, which is so, I think, important.
Great, Mr. Hafid, your thoughts to this?
Yeah. Thank you, Namir. I think the question is very important. But being a central banker, so it's always from when you're coming from a regulatory, let's say, system, you need absolutely to have a look into other specific area. So we all agree that technological advances to the financial system and services have been accelerated, particularly due to the outbreak of COVID-19. The restriction on physical contact moves most of the financial services and support to online and the virtual or digital world. There are some implications of such technological advances to the financial system. We can analyze that from three different angles. Number one is implication of the financial sector and customers themselves. In addition to, of course, as Marcus and Anne has rightly mentioned, that to better, more cost-effective and more innovative financial services to be provided by financial institutions to the customers. The rise of FinTech or technological advances has also resulted in what some have doubled the battle for the customer relationship and customer data. The outcome of this battle will be crucial in determining the future role of financial institutions, especially for banks. Number two is the application to central banks and regulatory authorities. The nature and the scope of financial and banking risks, as traditionally understood, may significantly change now over time with growing adoption of FinTech in the form of both new technologies and business models of financial institutions, as well as the entrance of new players, as mentioned above. It is a challenge for central banks and regulatory authorities to consider how they balance ensuring the safety and soundness of the financial and banking systems with minimizing the risk of inadvertently inhibiting beneficial innovation in the financial sector. Such a balanced approach needs to ensure the safety and soundness of banks, financial stability, consumer protection, and compliance with applicable laws and regulation. The third angle is the application to financial stability itself. So although it appears that the latest development in this area are still at the stage where the risks to financial stability remain not material, central banks and regulatory authorities should not underestimate the rapid development of fintech. More importantly, central banks and regulatory authorities should have sufficient relevant data and information available to track accurately the magnitude and precise nature of some of these developments. So in particular, I will mention just two of them: the concentration, in the sense that we should be able to screen and capture the successful big tech firms that are emerging and likely being of systemic importance in near future, alternative channels of financial intermediation, any widespread use of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and other similar technologies for lending and trading, use of crypto assets, although the use of crypto assets is relatively low, that are growing adoption of crypto assets, which in future could lead to financial stability issue as a result of price volatility. Vulnerability from the increasing levels of operational and cyber risk in the financial system. So Namir, to answer your question, I think yes for the technology, but central banks and regulatory authorities keep an eye as well on the application of those on the different angles, as I mentioned. Thank you.
That is critical, and that's very important. Looking at the fintech world very closely, I think it is critical, and that's, central banks have played a critical role once again in not just basically addressing the risk very carefully, but at the same time protecting the consumer's risk. The other one is, Anne, I'm going to ask you on this point lastly, what do you see as opportunity and risk?
Well, look, as we come out of COVID, we're coming into a world with 5G and artificial intelligence. And that is going to radically change how we live and work and how we augment ourselves to be successful in the working world. And so many more products are going to be available through that. 4G brought us pervasive use of social networks. 5G could bring us pervasive use of things like autonomous vehicles because we can move so much data around the world. Data is going to drive the future. Data belongs, we believe, to the consumer, and we need ethical data frameworks to work around the world. But also what we'll see is the advent of voice commerce, machine-to-machine payment capability happening seamlessly in the background, and the world will just change radically. And hopefully all of this change will help us recover from COVID. And the last thing I'd say is that in terms of inclusion, you can't have the internet of everything without the inclusion of everyone. And that is why it's so fundamental to connect up human beings into this new world and allow them to really function and operate and build a really resilient economy. Just to agree with the previous speaker, one that's really cyber resilient as well. And we use artificial intelligence tools in Mastercard today to actually check real time about 1 billion transactions a day. And we believe we've saved about $55 billion in terms of fraud. So it's all happening now. It'll accelerate in the future.
Brilliant. With this, I would like to come to a very, very important development that has happened. Mr. Hafid, it comes down to you again. And I would like to ask you, central bank has also seen the need to increase more and more developments that need to be happening in the fintech space, and you have been taking the lead in that with the development of its own Central Bank of U.A.E's own fintech office. Can you please, guide us more and tell us more about this vital, or I would say pivotal initiative?
Thanks, Namir. As you rightly said, we have launched recently the FinTech office. But let me probably do a quick analysis of the existing FinTech ecosystem from 5 areas. Number 1 is capital. There is definitely, and we cannot ignore that, growing effort to support FinTech with their funding process and foster the overall R&D pipeline. From a demand perspective, growing number of FinTech initiatives among the U.A.E. financial institutions, but limited budget allocation, limited fintech and financial institution partnership. From a third perspective, infrastructure, ongoing project to improve the fintech infrastructure, but limited coordination across the ecosystem. Number 4, from a policy, limited harmonization of regulatory framework across jurisdiction within U.A.E. Absence of regulatory one-stop shop impact the demand for fintech and investors to enter the market. From a talent, which is very important element as well, fintech talent availability in the wider fintech ecosystem and high level of U.A.E. attractiveness. So there are some pros, but there are as well some weaknesses there. So hence, let's say definitely this might not be probably the perfect condition to enable the U.A.E. to become an enabling top-ranked fintech hub. From this, and to achieve this objective, the CBE has launched the FinTech Office to ensure that it becomes a top-ranked fintech hub within the next 3 years. By focusing on a harmonized set of strategic priorities, our aim is for the EU to become, number 1, a funding and capital hub for fintech. Number 2, a demand hub for fintech where all the latest innovative and advanced technology solutions are available in the U.A.E. And the regional and global provider for this solution. A talent hub for fintech as well, which has a pool of fintech experts and talents, and where the U.A.E. is the location for tapping the required expertise. A world-class, robust, and safe digital infrastructure. Number 5 is robust and balanced government policies and regulation to ensure proper risk management, a level playing field, and help foster innovation. So the journey, just to conclude with that, the journey, December 2021, to build a mature fintech ecosystem in the U.A.E. December 2022, to become the fintech hub in MENA. December 2023, to become the top 5 fintech hub globally. That's our journey, Nabil. Thank you.
That's a brilliant vision, and congratulations for this key initiative, and most importantly for the journey that you have stepped into. And we look forward, the ecosystem look forward to work with you together in this and that we're able to achieve this milestone. With this, Anne, I would like to come to you. I mean, Mastercard being a 50-year-old company, Mastercard has definitely mastered, I would say, the art of innovation when it comes to financial services as well, and in payments in specific. Now, how is Mastercard planning to engage the customers in the future?
Okay, so first of all, if we think about the fintech space, Mastercard actually talks to about over 10,000 fintechs around the world through our labs and through our Start Path program. And we actually work with quite a few hundred fintechs a year to bring up new capabilities to work with consumers of the future. And things that we are developing are, as I say, voice-based commerce. You'll have seen we've launched our Sonic brand. So if you go forward and you're buying things from the internet and you're talking to your Alexa device, you can do that through Mastercard, and you'll hear that lovely music at the end that tells you that that's the brand you're dealing with and that your transaction has gone through the system safely and securely. We're also working with a number of suppliers that are wearable devices, so that, you know, your Fitbit and your, Apple devices and so on can all connect you to the internet. They can all make payments. And as I said, that's becoming pervasive around the world, especially with your telephone, that people are now using to tap to go through the subways, to tap to get on buses, to tap to buy a cup of coffee. And we've changed the contactless limits around the world to actually raise them so people can actually do this much more on a global basis. There's many other things that we're looking at. Data is probably at the center of this. Open banking is coming, and we are buying new platforms like Finicity to actually connect up fintechs and banks, so that consumers can decide how they want to be served in the future and perhaps see all of their banking information in a single space. And then, of course, we're into the world of artificial intelligence. And what that does for us, it detects fraud. It can tell if I pick up my telephone and try and make a payment and key, that it's different from the way that you key and therefore it can say, you know, Anne's made that payment and not anyone else. And so there's so many ways that actually technology is transforming the way that we live and the way that we make payments.
And then to the point of Internet of Values. So Marcus, I'm going to come down to you quickly on that as in continuation to Anne's comment. So Ripple speaks about in that scenario, the Internet of Value. How do we see that affecting the future of payments? And I mean, what does this mean?
Look, I think it's fundamental. So I think it's fundamental. So when you listen to Anne's comments about new innovation, technology, this is happening at a tremendous pace now, as Anne's describing. And this requires a complete rethink about how the world is cabled together on the internet. We all hold our mobile phones up, they're full of apps. Those apps would not be possible without the internet that was created between 1993 and 2001. We're going through the similar thing now with finance. So our view at Ripple is it's critical to have that Internet of Value created, interconnected. On top of that, these wonderful innovations can really come to life. And kind of one thought around that is that the internet has done so well because it's owned by nobody. Okay, it is a universal thing. It is easy to adopt. It is if you like, owned by the citizens of the world. And our view is that the financial world should move into that space as well. So it's much more democratic, much more open. And if it's done well, with really good oversight, with a real good feel for developing tech in a way that helps people, doesn't create problems for people, I think there's a great future. But hey, the future's here. This is the beginning of a big change. It's going to get faster and faster. And the opportunity is here now for us to create a really effective world for the people going forward, rather than a bad world, by engaging in that technology.
Brilliant. Thank you so very much for this. I think this session was very insightful, very engaging, and most importantly, great developments, Mr. Hafid from Central Bank of UAE. We really congratulate you for the efforts and the team that has actually brought together the 24/7 national payment strategy as well. Most importantly, the FinTech office to engage more with the FinTech community largely, and most importantly, to develop much more meaningful FinTech ecosystem. So number one, congratulations, and we look forward to great success ahead for that. And thank you so very much for your great insights on what Mastercard is doing and how you're shaping up the payments landscape. Thank you for highlighting what we have been doing with the open banking landscape. MENA is certainly picking up on that as well, and we look forward to learning more from your insights as well on that in the future. Marcus, thank you very, very much once again for sharing your key insights on the most importantly what Ripple speaks about, the Internet of Value. So thank you so much for your key insights, and I think it was a great session, and most importantly, great insights. Anyone and everyone who's listening out there, if you would like to reach out to any of these great panelists, please feel free, or reach out to the organizations and make sure you're connected. And I would now like to leave you for the next sessions. All the best.